The letter came like a slap across the face, a thin white envelope tucked neatly into my mailbox, stamped with the HOA seal like a brand of ownership. I tore it open, scanning the words. Violation. Unauthorized flag display. Fine. $1,000. For a moment, I just stood there on the porch, the sunlight spilling over my shoulder, my pulse pounding in my ears. I lifted my eyes to the flagpole rising proudly from my front yard. The stars and stripes fluttered in the cool morning breeze, their fabric worn but resolute, just like the men and women who had marched under it. It wasn't political, it wasn't meant to divide. To me, it was memory carved into fabric, a reminder of my father, who had carried that flag across deserts and mountains, who had saluted it with pride even as the weight of war bent his shoulders. But to Karen, the HOA president, it wasn't a flag. It was rebellion. It was a challenge to her clipboard, her rules, her fragile grip on power. She wanted it gone. What she didn't realize was that her demand would ignite something far larger than a dispute. It would awaken a storm she could never control. That evening, whispers filled the neighborhood. They fined you for a flag? That's illegal. They can't do that. There's a federal law, isn't there? Karen's gone too far this time. I watched as groups of neighbors lingered near mailboxes, shaking their heads, glancing nervously at their own homes. Everyone knew about Karen. She had fined families for hanging wind chimes, cited parents, because their kids left bikes on the sidewalk, even written violations for flower beds that weren't uniform enough. Her arrogance was legendary. She strutted through meetings like a queen, clipboard tucked under her arm like a scepter. She bragged about her zero-tolerance policy, boasting that she had brought order to the neighborhood. But fear was the soil she planted in, and intimidation was the water that kept her garden of control alive. Still, she had forgotten one truth. The law is stronger than her clipboard. I wasn't wealthy. I didn't have political power. But I had something she underestimated: determination. That flag wasn't just cloth. It was my father's voice echoing through time. It was the memory of him teaching me how to fold it properly, his calloused hands guiding mine. It was the stories he told me, about nights spent under foreign skies, about the friends who never made it home. Taking it down would have been like erasing him. And if Karen wanted a battle, then I would bring the fight to her doorstep. The board meeting was electric that night. The hall was packed, neighbors squeezed shoulder to shoulder, their faces lit by the cold glow of cell phone cameras. People leaned forward, whispering, waiting for the clash they knew was coming. Karen sat at the head table, her blazer a screaming red against the dull beige walls. Her lips curled into a smirk as she scanned the crowd. She tapped her pen against her clipboard, savoring the silence before her command. Finally, she jabbed her finger at me. Your flag violates community standards. Remove it immediately or you'll face escalating fines. Gasps rippled through the room. I rose slowly, every movement deliberate. From my folder, I drew out a printed copy of the Freedom to Display the American Flag Act of 2005. I held it up so the cameras could see. Federal law protects this flag, I said, my voice calm but sharp enough to cut through the noise. The room erupted, murmurs turned into shouts, phones flashed like lightning in a storm. Karen's smirk faltered for the first time, and in that moment the power shifted. But Karen wasn't finished. Within days, she escalated. She filed formal complaints, doubling down on the fines. She sent threatening letters, claiming the flagpole was structurally unsafe and a hazard to community harmony. I responded with silence, until the papers came, stamped by the courthouse. The case was no longer an HOA squabble. It was law versus arrogance. The courtroom was packed the day of the hearing. Veterans filled the benches, their uniforms and hats speaking louder than any words could. Reporters lined the walls, their cameras waiting for the story to unfold. Neighbors sat in clusters, holding their breath, united in a way Karen had never intended. Karen strutted in with her attorney, still clinging to that clipboard like a shield. She avoided the stairs, pretending the room was hers to command. The judge entered, and silence fell. The gavel struck once, heavy and final. I laid out the facts. Photographs, the federal statute, testimonies from neighbors, even letters from veteran organizations who had caught wind of the case. Each piece stacked higher, building a wall of truth Karen couldn't scale. Her attorney stammered, searching for loopholes. Karen shifted in her chair, her smirk gone, her face pale. Finally, the judge spoke. "This fine is unlawful. The HOA is ordered to rescind it, pay damages, and cover attorney fees." The gavel fell again, echoing like thunder in a canyon. Karen's empire cracked in that instant. By morning, HOA flag freedom trended across social media. Clips of the ruling went viral. News anchors mocked the HOA's arrogance, while commentators praised the victory as a win for homeowners everywhere. One by one, neighbors who had lived in fear of Karen stepped out of the shadows. They raised flags of their own, their porches blooming with red, white, and blue. For the first time, laughter echoed where whispers once lingered. Karen's reign of fear had ended, not with silence, but with banners waving in defiance. That afternoon, I stood on my porch beneath the same flag she had tried to erase. Its fabric snapped proudly in the wind, sunlight catching every fold. Reporters gathered at the curb, microphones pointed my way. "They tried to fine me for my freedom," I said, the words steady, the smile finally breaking through. "But in the end, freedom fined them instead. The HOA fined me for a flag, but the court made them pay. And if you believe in standing for your rights, in remembering the sacrifices carried by this banner, then share this story. Subscribe. Be part of this movement. Together, we'll keep waving the truth high, no matter who tries to tear it down."